In this video, I'll tell you about the ultra grimdark skirmish game Trench Crusade, and why I like it. If you've been kind of just ignoring, the wargaming internet for about the last 6 months or so, then I could see why you might not have heard of Trench Crusade. That said, even in this day and age of instant media all across the planet, information sometimes just seems to miss its mark, here and there. So maybe you haven't heard of it, and that's okay. I've made a few videos about it recently, pachow, so maybe check those videos out after this one. But in this video, I'm going to tell you a bit about Trench Crusade and why I like it. And yes, I've made some videos before about this game. It's a game that impresses me greatly. But this video is going to explain some of what makes it cool in my mind and what I really enjoy now that I've been playing it more, got some games under my belt, why I like it. So look for that stuff a little bit further on in the video after I get the kind of what is it stuff knocked out here in the beginning. Trench Crusade is an indie miniature agnostic skirmish game set in an alternate history 1914. Now, I know that some of you just sort of kind of tuned out when I said indie or maybe skirmish or certainly miniature agnostic in that previous sentence, but you shouldn't, honestly, right? Each of those terms in this situation kind of have an asterisk after them that I'll explain in a second. But I also just want to quickly describe the lore of Trench Crusade. And I do mean quickly. I'll keep it short to keep the video moving. But if you want to know more, they have a free lore primer download on their website that you can check out. So story-wise, when the Templars went into Jerusalem during the Crusades back in 1066, in this story, they found something that shouldn't be there. Ancient demonic artifacts hidden in secret vaults. Now, these Templars, blinded by greed and with weakness in their hearts, joined the forces of evil, and Jerusalem became a portal, well, kind of a portal, really more of a pit, honestly, into hell. And now, 800 plus years later, the Crusades are still going on, and the church is fighting to regain Jerusalem from the forces of hell. The supernatural is now real on both sides of the conflict, but the fighting is at a stalemate. So that's pretty much the story in a nutshell, right? If you want to learn more, check out the website down in the description below to read all the lore that they have available for free. And while I find the concepts behind the lore compelling, I'm not really much of a lore guy, right? It's not really why I play war games. Why I do play war games is usually the rules, sometimes the miniatures, and frequently the vibes. Trench Crusade hits a sweet spot for me, so I'm going to try to explain some of those sort of asterisked terms that I mentioned before: indie, miniature agnostic, and skirmish. So, yes, Trench Crusade is indie. It's made by a very small group of folks. They're not even a small to mid-sized game company, with an HR department or anything like that. They're quite small, and this is their first game. Well, okay, this is their first game together, right? Nearly everyone in the group is an industry veteran with writers and designers who've worked on tons of games from Games Workshop in the past, including Mordheim and 40K and others. Names like Thomas Piernan, Gav Thorpe, Andy Chambers, Jervis Johnson, just to name a few. And the art is also created by industry veterans as well, although the industry is a bit more video game than, say, war game, right? Mike Francina is the lead artist and creator of the concept of Trench Crusade, and he's worked as a concept artist for years on the Diablo video game series. I've just started playing Diablo 4 recently, and I can definitely see some figures in the game that remind me a bit of his Trench Crusade style. It's just really interesting to see this model pop up and you're like, oh, geez, that kind of looks like, and that kind of thing. However, he's not the only artist on the project. There are more that are, also adding images and stuff like that, including one of my favorites, the great John Blanche. And while they're technically, indie as a small company, They did raise $3.3 million in their Kickstarter campaign in the fall of 2024, and then that swelled to near $6 million after the Pledge Manager opened up. They've already delivered the STL files, the 3D printer files, to backers who chose that option, like I did. And the printed miniatures are already starting to reach people's mailboxes as well, although, they ended up having far more orders than they kind of thought they initially would, so there's a lot more models to print and ship. But I thought you said that they're miniature agnostic, Uncle Adam, and now you're saying that they have a line of 3D printable miniatures. Well, yeah, both are true. Just because a company sells figures for players to use in their game doesn't mean the game can't be miniature agnostic as well. As I say all the time, of course, any game can be miniature agnostic if you believe in yourself. However, in this situation, it's actually the game company itself that's declaring the game as miniature agnostic. They've come out and said that, repeatedly as they kind of answer questions about Trench Crusade to the public. So what this means is that if there's ever an official play event, let's say like at a big convention like Adepticon or something like that, then you can enter that event and use whatever models you like. The Trench Crusade folks are behind that. That's not a thing that you can do with most games that sell miniatures for their rule set. They usually require you to use their models in their, game events at conventions or tournaments or whatever. But Trench Crusade seems to believe in the DIY aesthetic and wants you to be able to use your creativity and kitbash whatever you want to use for the game, as long as, the base is the right size. And while Trench Crusade is a skirmish game, you'll find that if you start to really get into the campaign play, your roster can potentially swell to, say, 20 to 25 models, which is a little bit more kind of on the higher end for skirmish games, in my opinion, right? But if you just want to play one-off games initially with your friends to see how you all like it or whatever, then it'll stick closer to 10 models per side, usually. If you never decide to play in campaign games, then you'll never have to worry about more models. Unless, you decide to start a new faction, which I've been thinking about myself. So it is actually indie and miniature agnostic and skirmish, all the things that help to get me to like a war game in many situations. But there's much more as well, like free. The rules are available to download on their website for free, and they say that they always will be. Yes, they are producing a fancy hardcover book for the Kickstarter backers who chose that in their pledge. It'll have all kinds of fancy artwork and probably more lore and all kinds of stuff like that, right? And they'll also probably have a softcover book available in the future beyond the Kickstarter kind of, fulfillment, they've said. I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a print-on-demand book, if they're smart, because then they never have to carry an inventory and it's always available and all those other reasons, right? But you'll be able to get the rules PDF from their website if that's what you prefer, and it'll be free. So between free rules and a kind of miniature agnostic use whatever minis you like decree from the company, there's nothing really stopping you from at least trying it out if you're interested. And the game rules themselves, well, those really hit pretty perfectly for me as well. The rules are very easy to pick up because the mechanic for attacking, whether for melee or for ranged attack, is very streamlined. Every action that requires a roll, including ranged and melee attacks, comes down to a 2d6. Rolling 2 through 6 is a failure, 7 through 11 is a success, and 12 plus is a critical success. That's it. But it's the modifiers that make everything kind of different and have a little bit of different flavor within the rules. There are modifiers for range, for cover, for elevated position, and then there's modifiers and a few different special rules for most figures in the game, which is part of what gives those figures different kind of combat roles in your fight. Some are amazing at melee and terrible at shooting because they've got bonuses to melee and maybe negatives to shooting, let's say. Some are good at both, and some are kind of lousy at both, but have important support roles. Most of the factions only have really, at this point, fewer than about 10 models to pick from, right? But so, you won't really feel overwhelmed with choice when you start list building. The ranged combat modifiers are really just kind of those three that I mentioned: cover, long range, and elevated position. Therefore, there's not that many to remember, and they'll become very quickly, second nature to you as you play. The other modifiers and special rules are listed in each model's kind of rules entry, right? So again, they're very easy to find and to keep track of as you play, like they're right there. If you've been kind of flummoxed in the past by stratagems and tactics cards and all the other little gotchas that other games can kind of have to simulate tactics, then Trench Crusade is going to be great for you. And since the game did so well at crowdfunding, I'll bet they're moving forward on lots of new things to enhance and update the game itself kind of down the road, right? Like including new models for the sub-factions, maybe even new forces and new factions, right? Eventually, probably even maybe plastic miniature kits that you'll be able to purchase in stores. They'll come on sprues and the whole deal. Now, these are all guesses on my part, but with the amazing response to Trench Crusade already, you'll very much get to see it grow over the next few years, I'm pretty sure. I've been really enjoying the games I've played with my Trench Pilgrims, and I'm hoping to maybe even play again this weekend or next. I'm working on terrain. I'm thinking about starting a second faction, right? Like I kind of said, the Cult of the Black Grail, mainly just because the Lord of Tumors is just so awesome. I mean, look at that guy. I really want to paint him and make him as gross as I possibly can. I have an entire bottle of Army Painter Fanatic Effects oozing vomit with his name on it, seriously. And then like the Heralds of Beelzebub, the giant flies with the big, I mean, come on, seriously. So that's just a quick overview of Trench Crusade and why I like it. If you're even a little bit interested in checking out the rules and the lore and all that type of stuff, head over to trenchcrusade.com. Again, it's down in the description below as well, and download to your heart's content. If you want to check out like the STL files that they have available, or pre-order some of the print-on-demand models if you don't have your own 3D printer or a friend with one, you can do that there as well. There's a little thing that says shop or store up in the menu. If you like these kind of why I like it videos, then please engage in depressmentation of the like button down there below. And it really does help the channel out. And well, we'll see more of these types of videos in the future if you do. If you want to see more videos in general from me every single Friday, then while you're down there, hit the subscribe button as well. It's free. Thanks for watching.